Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live.
Hey, how you doing, Joe?
So far, so good. Just been a pretty crazy day. I know. I think a lot of us are still. You're following the Formula Two race. I'm still getting over the exciting qualifying. It's been a crazy morning. So
Yes, it have, and we have a full weekend of racing, and we're gonna start off talking about the action in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, when the NTT IndyCar Series is racing at Road America with two races completed this season, and Scott Dixon currently leads the standings in the grid ranking, and that can all change this weekend with the doubleheader races at Road America. Now, normally we already have the starting lineup set, but we haven't qualified. Yeah, but qualifying is going to take place today at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be racing at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So, Joe, how big of a challenge is this single day format on such challenging tracks?
it is really challenging. We saw them do this at Texas Motor Speedway. Overall, they did pretty good, but we did see how Takuma Sato at Texas Motor Speedway, he had an incident during time trials, hit the wall pretty hard, couldn't compete in the race. So now here we are at Road America. We don't have the high speed banking challenges such as Texas Motor Speedway. The bigger challenge now, though, this is one of the toughest road courses that they face all year. So it's going to be one of those things where experience is really going to come in. If you're a rookie, very little practice on the Road America. Yeah, you got the simulators, but it's still not going to be the same. So it's going to be really challenging for them. And then just some of the challenges we've seen of the lack of practice for these teams, where mechanical reliability or even coming to the pit stop. So it's going to be a real challenge for everyone today.
Yeah, and Scott Dixon is currently the leader of the grid ranking. How well does he have to run today in order to keep the lead over Scott McLaughlin?
It's going to be very important today for him to try to stay up there to try to keep the lead of the grid ranking. He's one of the first IndyCar drivers to lead the grid ranking since Sebastian Bourdais 2 years ago. Here is a look at the grid ranking right now. Scott Dixon, as you mentioned, the lead with 25.92. A top three finish in both races for him will surely guarantee the lead, especially since Scott McLaughlin is not racing today. However, especially in the grid ranking, if you finish outside the top 10, that's really going to hurt you, drop your points down. And that's how sometimes you see somebody like Scott McLaughlin pick up the points lead when a driver is racing and they have a bad race. So it's going to be really important to see Scott Dixon if he could definitely come out, get some good, strong finishes, and maintain that grid ranking lead.
Yeah, the defending race winner at Road America is Alexander Rossi, and in total we have four past winners racing with Will Power, Scott Dixon, Jason Newgarden, and of course Rossi. And Alexander Rossi is coming off two poor race results. It's been a horrible start to the season for him and Andretti Autosport. So we know Alexander Rossi is way down in the points right now. Do you think he's in a must-win situation right now, or it could be game over already so early in the season in the championship battle?
I think it is definitely a must win situation. Even though they have a full schedule, we have no idea what's going to happen the next upcoming months with this pandemic situation. What we've seen the last two race weekends, mechanical issue, one prevented him from starting the race on time, the other one took him out of the race. Any more mechanical issues, that could really hurt his chances. And then, of course, the competition in IndyCar is so fierce. One of the reasons why we haven't seen an IndyCar driver lead a grid ranking often is because there's so many different drivers that are contending for wins, different race winners. It's very hard to dominate a season, especially IndyCar. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Rossi comes out. He is definitely, in my opinion, in a must-win situation to get that positive momentum going for him and the team.
Yeah, and while everyone be looking at the names we have mentioned, we have to give recognition to fourth, fifth, and sixth in the points, which are Colton Herta, Graham Rahal, and Zach Veach, who are all up there. So out of those three, who's the bigger surprise, and can any of them snatch a win this weekend at Road America?
I think definitely Graham Rahal. He is looking really strong for the start of the season. I think he could be somebody that'll snatch the win today at the Road America. It's going to be one of those things where, for him, Zach Beach, I think he's really good this year. The one thing for Zach Veach, I think, is just the experience. But Colton Herta, a lot of folks are going to see him as a favorite today because he's no doubt has a lot of momentum going forward. I think one of the big things for him going on, the positive momentum they got going, including a win at Laguna Seca, I think he's one of the favorites to find.
Yeah, Road America is a 14 turn track, well, and over 4 miles long. So, some of the very best that won here, like Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Jacques Villeneuve, Dario Franchitti in 1997, Alex Zanardi, who we are still thinking about today during his recovery. So, Joe, how difficult is Road America compared to all of the other road courses across the United States?
It is one of the most difficult road courses in all the United States. When it comes to Road America and other road courses, particularly permanent road courses, it's the third longest one. It's 4 miles, 14 turns. It's only second to the Grand Course at Virginia International Raceway and the full course at Miller Motorsports Park. When it comes to elevation change, it's in the top 20. That front stretch, you're going straight up the hill towards the green flag, and then as soon as you take the first corner, you start going back down the hill again. So many epic corners here. I know definitely, especially all the names that you mentioned, experience wins here. So that's why I think Alexander Rossi could be a good potential winner here. Of course, don't count on Will Power, Scott Dixon, who has won here. I think it's going to be a really good race and something that a lot of fans to see this not just today, but tomorrow as well. A doubleheader just makes it all better.
Yeah, yeah, Road America is definitely a difficult road course, and personally, it is one of my favorite road courses in the United States. 4 miles long, and have some of the long straightaways. You have the carousel, the kink, Canada corner, and all of that. Road America is just an all American old school road course where you can't mess up. No room for error at all, and you can watch the NTT IndyCar Series race today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN, and tomorrow at noon Eastern Time on your local NBC broadcasting station.
Yes, tomorrow's going to be exciting. Today will be exciting. Of course, we got also tomorrow as well. NASCAR, they're going to be at Kentucky Motor Speedway. They won't be on NBC. They'll be on FS1. This is FS1's last race for the season. They'll be back next year, FS1 Fox. Definitely, we're getting down to it, of course. This is the last chance for a driver to try to earn a win before the All Star race. This also marks the final 10 races of the regular season. Now, let's take a quick look at who's in the playoffs right now, locked in via wins. We have drivers like Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin. They both have 4 wins each. Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano from Penske both have 2 wins each. Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., and Alex Bowman are the 8 drivers that have wins this season and are locked in the playoffs. Now, for fans not familiar or brand new to NASCAR, to get in the NASCAR playoffs, a win automatically gets you in. If there is more than 16 winners in a season, then the point stands will come in. But that has not happened since NASCAR has gone into win you're in format. So for the drivers that don't have a win, they're going in by points. And here's the look at those drivers. Now, these drivers trying to get in, as soon as they win a race, they're locked in the playoffs. However, if they don't get a win, they can still get in, but they have to be within the top 16 in points. So you can see right there, 17th place, Eric Jones. He is 14 points behind. He is really going to be looking at trying to catch up, get a win, or just surpass drivers like Austin Dillon, Jimmy Johnson, William Byron. Tyler Reddick, he is 24 points behind. So same thing. He has a lot of good races, but of course he's had a lot of poor finishes as well. Just one of the side effects of being a rookie this year. Now, Kentucky has hosted 9 Cup Series races leading up to tomorrow. All 5 past winners are racing. That includes Matt Kenseth, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr., and the Busch brothers. Out of those 5 that I just mentioned, Kobe, is there one that you see as a bigger favorite to win the race tomorrow?
Well, if I had to pick one of those drivers, I'd definitely say Martin Truex Jr. would be my favorite. Martin Truex Jr. in his number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing team always seem to run well on these mile-and-a-half tracks, and he's had success at Kentucky in the past, so it would not surprise me We see Martin Truex Jr. go to victory lane, but I'm gonna save my pick a winner for later because I'm not picking Martin Truex Jr. or any of these five drivers that you mentioned.
Yes, Martin Truex, of course, he's in a Toyota. Joe Gibbs Toyotas are fast all year, and Toyota leads all the manufacturers at Kentucky with wins, 5 total. Eric Jones, he is second when it comes to drivers active in that best average finish, which is amazing considering he hasn't won there yet, but he always seems to run really well there. He's had 2 bad races. Pocono, he got in a wreck with Tyler Reddick. And then Indianapolis Brickyard 400, he got in a very serious wreck. Thankfully, he was okay. Can he bounce back tomorrow after 2 disappointing race weekends?
I mean, Eric Jones, he's not gonna have a choice but to try to bounce back because right now he's on the outside looking in, and we're getting to that time. We're getting to that time of year again where it's time to start positioning yourself for the playoff fight, and at this point, you really want to be you really want to be running better. I remember when we first started, the Grid Live shows, back at Darlington on May 17th. It was like, oh yeah, it's early in the season. We don't you don't if you mess up now, it's okay. And we're getting to the point now where you need to make less and less mistakes. And moving forward, Eric Jones can't afford to have any more race weekends like what we saw at Pocono and Indianapolis. He's gonna have to perform well and not get him and not hopefully for him get involved in anybody else's mess and just try to get the best finish possible and see how he compares to his Joe Gibbs racing teammates.
Yes, his Joe Gibbs racing teammates, especially Danny Hamlin, been looking good. Kyle Busch, he's been knocking on the doors for a win, especially before the pandemic. After the pandemic, he hasn't exactly been there. But I think with him, it's a matter of when, not if. But for Eric Jones, I definitely agree with you. He has to bounce back. Speaking about bouncing back, we all know Denny Hamlin. He is looking to bounce back after that heartbreaking loss at Indianapolis. Leading with a few laps to go, he seemed to have the race under control. That tire blew, took him out of the race. Now, a lot of people are going to be watching for Denny Hamlin to bounce back. However, of course, a lot of people are going to be looking at is he go back to where he was before the wreck? We've seen a lot of people in the past few weeks highlight how the Pocono wreck for Jimmy Johnson 2017, he hasn't been fully the same. For Denny Hamlin to prove that he is back, does he have to go out to win? Or will getting a top 5 be sufficient enough for people to say he is the man to beat still? Because there'll probably be people more critical of his performance, especially since he was so good early on.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that Denny Hamlin is going to be a strong championship contender this year. It would honestly surprise me if he's not in the championship four when we get down to Phoenix in November. But I think regardless of what happens today, I mean well tomorrow, I think Denny Hamlin's definitely going to be a championship contender regardless because I expect him to be contending for wins in many more races before we get to the playoffs, and he's definitely going to be strong in the playoffs as well, I believe.
I do see him being strong in the playoffs. I think he's in a situation where he could put that behind him. He seems to really bounce back from adversity pretty well. We all know what happened to him in Homestead. That could have easily led to problems. This season, they came back stronger. I see him coming back stronger today. Excuse me, tomorrow for the race. I see him coming back stronger all season long, and he's definitely going to be a threat in the championship, especially in the playoffs once we get those started. Now let's go ahead and review the top 10 starters for today's NASCAR race. Kyle Busch and Joey Logano, they got the front row. Of course, qualifying has been done through drawing. There's no qualifying, just a random draw. Teammates Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola are third and fourth. Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., and Matt DiBenedetto round out your top 10 stars. Now, of course, they all go through the top 12 in points, so you still have 2 drivers who are in the top 12 in points, but they won't be starting in the top 12. In the top 10. One driver that we're talking about, he's starting fourth, going for his 6th top 5 finish in a row, Eric Almirola. He's been really good. 5 top 5s in a row. Do you see him earning number 6 today?
It would not surprise me if Eric Almirola goes out and continues his streak in tomorrow's race. I mean, Eric Almirola, it's been a little surprise to see how strong he's been running lately, considering his future is uncertain at Stewart Haas Racing. In the rumor mill, we've heard Kyle Larson might be making a return to NASCAR, and then the Stewart Haas Racing Xfinity driver Chase Briscoe is lighting the world on fire, and he's gonna be on a lot of people's short list for a full time Cup ride, and Eric Almirola, he's just performing at such a high level right now, and it makes you wonder. Although that seat could be available next year, if he's competing at this high level, why would you want to take him out of the seat? And it would definitely make things interesting come silly season. But for now, I think Eric Almirola is driving extremely well for Stewart Haas Racing.
He is driving extremely well. I think him, his new crew chief, they did a swap. They seem to be working really well together. So I definitely see them being a combination that will get a win at some point, get another top five. That'll be amazing. Point wise, they're looking really good in the playoff bubble, as we had shown earlier. They're not in risk of being eliminated. So I really see them excelling. Now, one of the things a lot of people are going to be looking forward to today, tomorrow, still not used to NASCAR running tomorrow, and then we got IndyCars today, just throwing me off. But we are seeing essentially a full weekend of racing at Kentucky. We've had two Xfinity races yesterday and Friday. A lot of action in those races. We saw a good number of wrecks, especially since that bottom group seems to really be hard when it comes to grip. So far, with everything we've seen so far at Kentucky Speedway, is there any concerns going into the race for the Cup Series drivers, or do you see anything the Cup Series drivers may have learned from those two races?
I mean, with the way the track is right now, it might be a little hard to pass, on the longer runs. So restarts will be very important. Get as much as you can in the pits with track position and all of that. But with the way the track is, it is what it is. You just have to make the most of the situation and be out front when it matters the most.
Definitely being out front when it matters the most. It's going to be something where it's going to be really interesting to see, with the starting lineup being what it is, if any of the drivers outside of the top 10 could try to move up. Restarts, of course, are really crazy, so it's going to be really interesting for everyone. Just a reminder, the NASCAR race tomorrow, Fox Sports 1, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
And now we move on to the world of Formula One, and Formula One will be racing tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, kicking off a busy Sunday of racing. And Friday, Formula One actually announced that the calendar has expanded from 8 to 10 races, and the Sochi Autodrome in Russia is back on the calendar. And Formula One will be going to the Mugello, the Tuscany circuit owned by Ferrari, which will host the Grand Prix of Tuscany on September 13th. I'm sure that it'll be exciting for fans who have never seen the Tuscany circuit, Mugello. And there was a lot of doubt if we would have qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix, but after today, there's a little doubt as to who everyone will be chasing for the championship. And in Q1, we saw Racing Point's Sergio Perez and both Alfa Romeos of Kimi Räikkönen and Antonio Giovinazzi failed to advance to Q2. Both teams scored points last week and will be starting in the back. And and the wet weather, saw many surprises. And Joe was covering qualifying while I was just getting ready for the day and getting ready to watch Formula Two. But Formula Two right now under a red flag for bad weather. And so, Joe, regarding Formula One qualifying, can you tell us more about what you saw?
It was a wild qualifying period. Of course, for anyone that was on Twitter or social media, it was just lap after lap, another person would set the fastest lap as the track was drying at this point. It was drying, it wasn't raining, but it was still very wet and visibility was very low. We saw George Russell in the Williams twice claim P1 for a while. That got everyone excited. It was one of the wildest qualifying sessions I've seen in a long time. One of the big things we saw too, it looks like Racing Point, their car, when it comes to wet weather, they really missed the setup today. We saw Sergio Perez last week, all week long, running up front. We know he's good in the rain. A few years ago in Malaysia, he almost won a race in the rain in a Sauber. He finished second to Fernando Alonso that day. So it was a real surprise to see him go out in Q1. Charles Leclerc, he has proven that Ferrari is still not 100%. He went out of after Q2, didn't advance to Q3, but his teammate Sebastian Vettel went ahead and made it into Q3. At one point, posting the fastest lap, but of course, as that track was drying, people were posting faster and faster laps. McLaren, they really proved they're the real deal in qualifying. Lando Norris, multiple times claimed first. Then we saw Carlos Sainz several times up there in the top. They both look really fast now. Of course, Lando Norris does have a penalty that's going to effectively drop him 3 spots in the grid. But Carlos Sainz, both of them are looking really good, but definitely looking really good and really hard to beat already. Lewis Hamilton. He got the pole hands down by over a second. This is the largest pole margin since 2014. He just laid down a thunderfast lap over Max Verstappen and the rest of the field. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens come Sunday for Formula One.
Yeah, and once again, Ferrari had one car in the top 10 with Sebastian Vettel, but Charles Leclerc didn't make it out of Q2. Do you think Ferrari has to be in panic mode at this point?
Panic mode, possibly. The one thing with now we have 10 races instead of the 8 schedule, that means 9 more opportunities for them to rebound instead of 8. I mean, excuse me, instead of 7. However, they're still got issues with the pace. We saw Charles Leclerc, he didn't advance out of Q2. Sebastian Vettel, 10th, bottom of Q3. They're really missing something. McLaren is faster than them. Racing Point, a lot of folks will say we were faster than them last week, but after what we saw in the rain, it could be something where when it comes to wet weather, they don't have to set up going for them. So definitely, I think, especially for Ferrari and their high standards, they are in a bit of a panic mode, but they're not going to just try to throw everything just to find speed right away. They're going to still be looking at all the data, being very strategic and trying to find the right setup to get them ahead. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Ferrari does.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. If I'm Ferrari right now, I'm beginning to worry a little bit. But also, if I'm Carlos Sainz over at McLaren, if this continues on into the season, if I'm Carlos Sainz, I'm definitely gonna be worried. And considering how strong McLaren has looked so far, if I'm Sainz, I'm gonna be thinking, did I make the wrong decision to go to Ferrari? Because you think Ferrari will be in a major upgrade over McLaren, and so far Ferrari is just struggling right now. It's very unferrari like to see them running this way. Although it is the second race weekend of the season, but for somebody like Carlos Sainz who's gonna be joining Ferrari next year, I'd definitely be a little concerned and wondering if I made the right decision to go to Ferrari and leave McLaren. And and moving on to where Honda said that the reliability issues that plague Red Bull has been addressed, with Max Verstappen, starting second. Should we really see the Max versus Lewis battle that we anticipated last week?
I think so. This is going to be something else. No, both of them are really good in the wet weather. So if we have a wet race tomorrow, it's going to be really fun to watch for everyone because that rain effect will essentially equalize the cars. It's going to come down to skills. We saw what Max could do, especially in Brazil when he had that really roller coaster performance. But we know Lewis is really good in the rain as well. If it's dry weather, it's really going to show us who's the best when it comes to taking care of their equipment. We know Mercedes is the top one when it comes to the best cars, but Red Bull's up there. This is going to be a really good indicator to show where they are. And just a reminder for everyone, when it comes to Formula One, after this weekend, they will be scoring in the grid ranking. They still have to do at least another 3 more races after this weekend to be in the World Motorsport League. Here's a quick look at the World Motorsport League standing. So definitely be sure to follow the World Motorsport League standing. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I think especially when it comes to Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, it's going to be a fun race to watch between the two of them.
Now let's take a look at the top 10 starters for tomorrow's race in Austria. So on pole, we got Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes second, Max Verstappen, an impressive third place starting position for Carlos Sainz and McLaren. Last weekend's winner, Valtteri Bottas, rose off forward. Rounding out the top five have Esteban Ocon and Renault. Sixth, Lando Norris. Seventh, Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly. Eighth, Daniel Ricciardo ninth, and Sebastian Vettel rounds out the top 10. And we've been holding off to the end, but it's time for pick a winner. Be sure to participate and pick a winner and let us know who you think will win. Joe, starting with you, who do you think will win the pair of IndyCar races this weekend?
For the two IndyCar race weekends, I think I'm going to go with Scott Dixon. He's looking really strong. I do see him making three in a row. With that said, I don't see him doing four in a row. I think we're going to see Will Power and Penske bounce back, and he's going to earn a win on Sunday's race at Road America.
Yeah, and for my two pick of winners, I'm going with Joseph Newgarden to win the race this afternoon, and tomorrow I'm going with I'm sure what other people would consider a surprise winner in in IndyCar. You know, he ran really well in the Indy Grand Prix last week, but I think Marcus Ericsson is going to shock the world, and he's going to win his first IndyCar race.
That'll be really cool to see if Ericsson could pull that off. So
Yeah, and next we have our Formula One pick a winner, and since Joe went first last time, I'll go first this time, and I think that Lewis Hamilton's gonna win.
I'm going to go with an upset. I think we're going to see McLaren, Carlos Sainz pull it off. He's starting in third. McLaren team has been looking really good. They have the momentum. I see Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen. I don't trust the reliability issues that have been solved completely. We're still very early in the season, so I think he could really capitalize, pull off the big upset, and get the win. Now, finally, we end the race weekend with the NASCAR Cup Series Quaker State 400 at Kentucky Speedway. For that race, I see Kyle Busch coming back and earning the win. He's been looking really good. He's really good at that track. I see Kyle Busch winning it on Sunday.
And for me, I think I'm gonna go with Joey Logano to win tomorrow at Kentucky Speedway.
It's going to be a really exciting race. We encourage everyone to be sure to follow all the racing weekend. Be sure to follow the grid right here, gridranking.com. There you'll find a list to all our social media pages as well. And definitely we encourage everyone to tune in to Ultimate Sports Radio Network as they'll be doing the racing coverage as well following the